These are 5 things you're doing wrong in Cuphead. Let's go. The first thing you may be doing wrong is not having the right weapon in the correct slot in the weapons menu. As you know, in Cuphead, there are a total of 4 different slots for weapons. There are 2 slots for shots, 1 for super arts, and 1 for charms. The slots we will be talking about are the shot slots, since there are multiple of them, and which one you put what weapon in is crucial and is more of a convenience thing over a skill thing. So just to go over the obvious, the 2 slots that hold shots are named Shot A and Shot B. Shot A is your primary weapon, in which you start every boss fight or run and gun with, and Shot B is your secondary weapon that you swap to if you need to use it. Now the words primary and secondary are absolutely useless because the shot you want to have as Shot A is the shot you use first once the fight commences. So for example, when fighting the root pack, I usually use the lobber and the spread as my weapons to defeat the boss. So I'll have the lobber in Shot A while the spread will be in Shot B. Even though in this fight the spread will be my primary weapon of choice, as you can see on screen, once the boss fight starts, I want to get as much damage as possible before I get up close so I can clear the boss as fast as possible. So having the lobber as Shot A will allow damage to be dealt as soon as the boss starts, since it's a ranged weapon, and then I switch back to the spread as soon as I get up close. And for the rest of the boss, I use the spread since I don't really need the lobber for any other phase of the fight. Usually if I'm speedrunning, which is most of the time, my loadout will always be the lobber and spread, and the spread will be used most of the time on a boss unless the lobber actually needs to be used. But in general, just to make life a little easier and to get as much damage out as possible, have the shot you're going to use first once the fight starts in Shot A, so you don't have to waste time swapping at the beginning of the fight. But if you still don't get it, look at it this way. Most people will have the weapon they use the most in the fight defaulted to Shot A, which is fine, but the shot you use most of the time in a fight won't always be the shot you use first in a fight. I know that was the shittiest way to look at it, but just roll with it, okay? The next thing I want to go over is parrying. Now this tip is not for all the Cuphead pros out there, which is probably the 1% of the audience that clicked on this video, but is mainly for the ones just starting out in the game or the ones that really struggle in parrying and just can't get it right. So I'm just going to go over the basic technique of parrying because that's literally all it takes to get better at parrying and some practice as well. Usually what I see all the time when people first start playing Cuphead, they seem to not fully grasp the idea of parrying. They usually spam parry or just end up taking damage for no reason, or they mistime their parry. So here's the best way you'll ever hear about how to parry. Parrying is basically you tapping the jump button again on a pink object after jumping, coming in from an angle. If you decide to parry an object from right under it, the chances are you're probably going to take damage because you will mistime it. But if you're coming from an angle, you'll hit your parries 90% of the time if you time them right. For example, in the tutorial, when you get to the parrying section, you see that it makes you jump from an angle to then parry. And as you can see, when I parry, I don't spam the parry button. I'm just tapping it on the pink object. So every time I get close to the object, I just tap. Another example that almost everyone who is new to the game struggles with is the King Dice boss fight, the ending specifically, where you have to parry all of his cards. It is basically the same situation as the tutorial, only this time it's a high pressure situation because you know that if you die here, you have to restart the entire level again. So it just takes a bit of practice playing the game honestly and the boss itself so that you don't get as nervous and being able to parry like it's nothing. And just as an ending summary for this section, just tap the parry button, don't spam it, just tap it and you'll be fine. Try it in the tutorial and you'll be good to go honestly. Next up is Miss Chalice's first super art. This is going to be a quick one. I'm going to be speaking about how to use it against enemies that are side by side and not above you. For example, Mortimer Freeze's second and last phase. In general, what you want to do is get as close as you can to the boss without taking damage and use it at that point. As you can see on screen, when Mortimer turns into a fridge, I get as close as I can to him and use the super so it actually hits. Now the way I did it in this gameplay just shown isn't how it's going to look like when you're actually fighting him for real. I just did it so it's clear how it's done and isn't quickly done at normal speed. This technique literally works for every situation that's similar to this in any boss. So yeah, I know it was an obvious one and a lot of people probably knew about this, but some people probably just had a revelation, who knows. The next one is something I always see that's never used properly and is something I never recommend to anyone to use, and that is Cuphead's third super art. This super art can be the most useful one and at the same time the most useless weapon in the game because it is never used correctly. In almost every situation, if you're going to use a super playing as Cuphead, I always recommend using the first super because it will always hit since it takes up the entire screen and you're fucking invincible during it, so it's a win-win. But if you're really looking to use that third super art so badly, then this is for you. I always see people either never control the spirit enough so that it just flies off the screen, or they just fly apply it everywhere except with the bosses. To fix this, again go into practice tool, aka the tutorial, and just practice controlling it by focusing on the spirit the entire time and keeping it at the center of the screen, which is most likely where the boss is going to be. The biggest reason why I don't recommend using the super is because it makes you take focus off your character and on the spirit instead. Also, you have to move your character around in order to move the spirit as well, which is just asking for death, because unless you're an absolute god on multitasking, I really don't recommend the super whatsoever. But in summary, in order to become better at using the super art in particular, you want to practice keeping the spirit at the center of the screen in the tutorial, but then working on your multitasking and keeping your character from taking damage while also controlling the spirit. I know this one is a very practice based one, but using the super is basically asking for trouble, so the thing you're actually doing wrong in Cuphead is using the super in the first place. Just save yourself the trouble and don't use it at all. And for the final thing you may be doing wrong in Cuphead is not taking full advantage of the 8-way lock. This in particular is a control that many people don't take full advantage of, which is pretty interesting, so I'm just gonna go over every advantage of it and examples along the way. One of the biggest advantages of using the 8-way lock is that it allows you to shoot enemies below a platform. For example, in Rumor Honeybottom's first phase, you're able to use this to your advantage to get through the phase quicker if you use the spread and just follow the police officer beat and attack him from above continuously, which will only last the phase probably 10 seconds and you're off to the rest of the boss fight. Another one is in Moonshine Mob's first phase, when the spider is walking below the platform you're standing on and you're able to shoot at him while standing above him. I know you're thinking this is pretty basic stuff. Well, yes, it's pretty basic, yet I still see countless people never use it to their advantage, even though it's a huge part of the kit. But for me, I think the most useful thing about the 8-way lock is that it makes it easier to drop diagonally from platforms if I need to. The most notable example is from the rabbit mini boss in King Dice's Gauntlet, when he casts the skulls with only one way to escape. Unless you use the smoke bomb 24/7, you don't need to listen to the rest of this, but if you don't, then you know that at some points he leaves an opening in 4 diagonal directions, and 2 of them are at the bottom left and bottom right, which most people, including myself at times, struggle with getting out of. This is where the 8-way lock comes into play, because if you lock your character and face in the direction that you want to drop and press the drop button, you will easily escape and drop in that direction. This technique does take quite a bit of practice to pull off, especially since the skulls close in pretty quickly, so you'll have to be fast with it. But once you get it, you will never have to use the smoke bomb again. Or you can just skip this boss and try another one of King Dice's numbers, but what's the fun in that, right? But I think that's about everything you may be doing wrong in Cuphead. I know this video just turned into a full tutorial video, but these are pretty useful tips, especially if you've just started playing the game, so take these tips and you might get better at the game if you aren't good yet. But at the end of the day, it's practice that makes you better, but out of everything I've said, I think the shot slots and pairing will be the most valuable information to you all. Everything else is just extra shit to go above and beyond, and with that, we've reached the end of the video. I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this, since we're on the way to 3,000 subscribers. And as always, at the end of every video, I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you all next time.